Hi everyone, I'm the plant propagator and welcome to my channel. Today I'm in the laboratory in Southwest Florida, and what I want to show you is not really the orchids in flasks. I'll show you a few of those, but the deflasking. We've been doing a ton of deflasking over the last month. We've been dealing with sometimes the plants just get big, need to be deflasked. We've been dealing with contamination issues, and when a flask gets contaminated, I deflask in order to save the orchids that are in there, and I've accumulated a lot. If you look over there, you can see some of the flasks, some of the deflasking efforts that we've done over the past few weeks. So on that shelf, and then even if you look down on the bottom two shelves, you can see again more. There's a lot going on, and I wanted to share some of those results with you so you can get an idea of how I deflask and what I do and how I treat these plants. So what I want to start out with is the most recently deflasked plants, and those are right over here. So I want to take a look at some of these, and I want to share with you what they are. So in this first container, and I had to use, normally I don't use these large containers, but in this case I did. So these are Grammatophyllums, and some of the original flasks that they came from are right here. So these were getting big. As you can see from the bottom of the container, there's extensive root growth, and they were just ready to come out. So these are Grammatophyllums. They were big, needed to come out, and so they went in here. And what I want to show you this is that these were deflasked 1 week ago, to give you an idea how they look, and they're just really big. They've got some really thick bases on some of these plants. The plants themselves are big, and it was just it really is amazing how fast these things grew in flask, but also how well that they've done only after a week of deflasking. They'll be in this container probably for about another 3 to 4 weeks. You can't see maybe a whole lot of root growth because it's only been a week, but these things really have done very well. The next container that I want to show you is also from a recently deflasked group, and this was done also a week ago. And what's in here are Dendrobiums, and these Dendrobiums, the flask that they came out of is right here. So these are dens. This was actually transferred by the person holding the camera into the flask this week because it was in a smaller flask and they were so cramped they had to go in a bigger flask, and I don't even think we're going to get much more growth out of here just because they're so tall already. But these were done a week ago, and I mean, look at some of these plants. I'm going to pull maybe a couple of them out so you can see how just ginormous they are if I can untangle them. But this was in a flask a week ago, and this again, it gives you an indicator of how much growth that they had, and the mother of them all is right here. This was in a flask a week ago, and this is really done, and the root system, I've got a picture of this plant. It wouldn't even go in a 2-inch pot, and I took a picture of this and I'll put it in this video so you can see what it looked like. This is a little bit unusual to have something that's this large, but the root system on this was just phenomenal, and it was just too big to go in a 2-inch pot, so I had to put it in this big pot by itself. This cross, I should mention, this is Dendrobium. This is a Dendrobium Wu-Lang cross, which I've had some recent success with and some recent blooms. So I'm happy. It's only been a week, and these guys are doing just really, really well. Okay, as we move on a little bit, I want to show you some other deflasked orchids that were taken more recently. So if we take a look at some of these, and this is a little bit of a different scenario. So these are burlap phals right here, and this was done, these were only put in here 2 weeks ago. So for burlap phals, what I do is I take the orchids and I deflask those and I put them on ribbons of burlap. And these also were just, they were big, but not this big. They have grown phenomenally. So take a look at some of these guys. I'll pull them out so you can get a real good feel for how these things have grown. So when you pull these things out and look, I mean, come on. This was in a flask 2 weeks ago. And do you think that there's a flask that big that can handle this? No. These were smaller. And look at that leaf right there. And it's not the only one that's like that. I mean, look at this. And here's another one. Look at this. This is just phenomenal growth. Now, again, the whole idea behind burlap phals was to take these things and then mount them on the tree with the backside facing and then kind of wrap them around the tree and hold them on with rubber bands. But you can see the root growth here. And again, let's take a look at I mean, this one right here. You can see. Look right here. Look at that phenomenal root growth. And that's in just 2 weeks, and that's not unusual. So this is one flask. I do want to show you another flask that's from the same group, also done a couple of weeks ago. And this is another. So to give you an idea, to show you this, because it's not a fluke, it's not unusual. That's how these guys grow. But let me pull out this guy right here. And again, this is 2 weeks ago, this was in a flask, and look at the amount of root growth that's on the back here, and that happened over the past 2 weeks, which is just phenomenal. Now, the whole idea behind me trying this is that what I'm seeing is, and what I'm striving for, is to get incredible root growth, incredible growth of orchids in flasks. And if you do that, once you deflask, you'll get this incredible additional surge of growth. And so that's what I'm trying to get, and that's what I'm apparently successful with. Again, 2 weeks ago right here that these were deflasked. So it's really phenomenal growth. I can show you a few more. I think, let me make sure of the order of this. So this was 3 weeks ago, and these aren't phenomenal, and they don't look great, but I wanted to kind of give you an idea. This is Guarianthe aurantiaca, and you can see they're small plants, and they're small plants because this flask was contaminated when the plants were really, really small. But I'm happy when you take a look at it. For example, this one, you can see root growth. It's been 3 weeks. It doesn't compare to the Phalaenopsis, but it's still nice growth, and the plants they're looking good. So it's 3 weeks. Everything is still alive and doing well. So it's growing. Again, it gives you kind of an indicator. And again, I had small, really, really small orchids because this was a contaminated flask that I wanted to save. I do want to show you something while I'm here. And the way that I treat these plants, I want to share this with you and show you what I do to them every week. And I think this is a nice container to show you on, but I do the same thing to all the orchids in all the different containers. So I take a pipetter, and I take a pipetter shown here, and I'll reach down here, tilt this to the corner, and remove the liquid. That's the residual liquid that's in there. So I'll remove the liquid, and then I'll get rid of it. And this is the other residual liquid that I have. And what you can see is it looks kind of gross, and there's probably algae and stuff growing in here, which is fine. But this is what I do. So every week I go in here and I pull off the old liquid, and I do put residual liquid in here, and then I replace it. I water these with new liquid. Every week I do this. So I replace it, what I showed there, and then every week I just put a lot more in there. And again, I want to make sure that the orchids are fairly wet. and that because you don't want them to dry out. That's one of the worst things that you can do at this stage, is to have these guys dry out. So every week with all of these containers, so it's ending up being a lot of work because of all of the containers I'm working with to do this every week. But gotta do it. All right, so let's move on. And this next box is this is Oncidium and Cyrtopodium, which is a Florida native. And these guys also came from a contaminated flask. And just to give you an idea of if I'd have left them in the flask, and I should say these were deflasked a month ago. All right, so now we're getting into some older ones, so a month ago. So this was, again, deflasked a while ago, and they were smaller, but if I left them in the original containers, this is some of my Oncidium and Cyrtopodium that I still have left over that was not contaminated that I've kept. Not a huge amount of root growth in the bottom of this, but the plants have grown quite a bit. So when you pull the individual plants out, they were smaller. They're doing well, but they're not showing growth because these were a lot smaller when I deflasked them about a month ago. All right, so it's better to, if you can, it's better to leave them in the flask and have them grow more. Okay, so let's move on a little bit. Again, this is, I got to check the date on this. This is about a month and a half ago. These are some various Cattleya hybrids that I have, but what I wanted to show you, and these are pretty close to be ready to either acclimate or just take directly outside. And with Florida, it's Southwest Florida, it's so humid here. These can probably go outside because it's so humid, it's so warm, and they should do well. But what I want you to see here is after a month and what these guys look like, the incredible root growth that you can see from these individual plants here. It just is, it's great to see, and that amount of root growth indicates that these guys are probably ready to come out. I mean, you look around, most of the plants in here, you know, you got this one right here that is just growing, and I got to make sure to unstick them. But this, you know, this plant right here, the root was growing into the next pot, but it's not unusual. Most of these plants are like this. So really, you know, incredible growth, and this is a long time. This has been a month and a half. The last thing that I want to show you, okay, oh, right here. All right, the last thing that I want to show you, this has been a little longer. It's been close to 2 months on some of these guys, and there's a whole variety of things in here. So you can see on these Cattleyas that are in the front here, you can see how incredible the root growth is on most of these things. These are ready. These are Cattleya hybrids. In the back here, this is Cyrtopodium punctatum. And what's going on in the Cyrtopodium is that they don't look great. The leaves are starting to brown a little bit, but that's what Cyrtopodium does. So they'll lose the leaves, they'll put out new shoot growth, and that's fine. You're thinking, okay, maybe I should fertilize this a little bit more, and that's just not necessary. So these, again, the back ones that kind of look like dead and dying grass, it's Cyrtopodiums, and that's what they do. So they'll lose their leaves and then they'll grow, they'll put out a new flush of growth. The final thing that I want to show you here is this guy, and this is Maikai, and this is my first attempt at maricloning an orchid. So I have so many Maikais. I cut this off, cut the eye out, and then cloned Maikai. So it wasn't from seed. It was from one of my plants. I cut it off. I put it in culture. I put it in this, and it was in this container about a month and a half ago. And the problem is that this is a really dirty facility, and I had the container closed and sealed, and I saw some fungus growing out. So I had to, okay, what do you do when fungus gets in the flask? You rescue the orchid that's in there. It's unfortunate because this was my first maricloning attempt. It was successful. I had some nice tissue growing in here, and I was going to keep on multiplying it, but I had to pull it out. And I pulled it out, and look at the phenomenal growth here of both the shoots. This was just from a single piece of tissue that I maricloned. The phenomenal amount of growth, the root growth that is there, but also look at the growth of roots on the side of this container. This would not fit in a 2-inch pot. So I had to go with a bigger container, treated it just like everything else. But again, this is my kind that has so many new leads on this, so many more pseudobulbs that are coming out of this, incredible root growth, and this is definitely ready to go outside. So I'm happy with everything. It's going. I'm tired because there's so much going on here. I'm very thankful for my help, people coming in the lab and helping me out with everything that I do here. But it's just we're generating so many plants. I haven't even shown you the seedlings that we have and the new seeds that have gone in culture. That's going to be enough for a new video. Anyway, lots going on here, having great fun, growing great plants, more importantly, quickly. So I'm trying to generate these plants, get them big in culture, take them out, and then have them just show incredible growth, and also get them to flower quickly, which is, I think, I'm being successful with that as well. Whew. Okay, that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed my video. If you did, and you want to keep on seeing my videos, it would help me out if you can click on like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you're not already a subscriber. All right, that's all I have today from the laboratory. I hope you enjoyed it, and happy propagating.